Well, welcome. Today I want to talk about something that's a little more practical. Yes, I'll have a couple of Bible verses at the end. But I want to talk about listening. It's one of those things that I think we take for granted sometimes. Because listening, despite what we often believe, is not something that just comes naturally to you. It's actually a skill that is learned. So I'm going to briefly go through a couple of different things with listening and then talk about some Bible verses, and that'll be it because I've only got 5 minutes. So when it comes to listening, there are 3 major steps or 3 different stages of listening. If you've ever been through some of our training, you'll know what those are, but I'm going to go through them again. Number 1 is listening passive aggressively. Anybody ever been in a math class where you're sitting and you're listening and you hear the teacher talking, but your mind kind of drifts and you start thinking about other things, you start daydreaming? Yeah, I know the kids will know this because that was me. So this is what happened, or maybe you're married and you have a bad habit of not fully listening to your spouse, and your spouse is talking and talking, and then eventually she's still talking or he's still talking, but you're not hearing. Anybody here ever had that happen? I know I've had that happen. So this is the stage 1 of listening. This is the most useless version of listening that you can. This is essentially soundboarding. So somebody is talking to you, but you're not really present. You're just acting as something absorbing sound, okay? This is not an effective form of listening. Number 2 is listening to respond. This is by far the most common form of listening. And what does it mean? It means when somebody's talking to you, you're listening to them, and you get about 6 seconds in, and you're formulating a response already. The Bible calls this an immature form of communication because you're listening before having understanding. This is the kind of communication that I would say is the most rampant in our culture, because our culture has created this idea that it's all about the one doing the speaking, and unless you're doing the speaking, you're somehow inadequate in the conversation. Nobody would ever acknowledge that, but it's a subconscious belief. And then the third level of listening is listening to understand. And this goes a little bit deeper. The difference between stages 2 and 3 is pretty significant. So number 3, not only are you listening to every word that is spoken, but you're also listening to the heart behind which it is being spoken. So you can hear the words, you can understand the words, but you're also understanding where that person is coming from. This is a very gifted skill. Or not a gifted skill. This is a skill that requires a long time to learn, master, and get good at. But when you do that, you're able to listen with a wisdom that can help navigate people around you way more effectively. It enables you to essentially listen to what a person's going through, hear the story, hear the conversation, and then go, wait a minute, you said X, but I know what your meaning is Y. If you've been in any conversations with where I've done counseling with you, you're going to recognize sometimes where you'll tell me a story or something, and we'll go, okay, but this is actually what you're communicating. And you go, oh, that's actually true. Because what happens is you are going to start to formulate words that are going to create in you, that are going to communicate what you actually think on the inside, but you may not have the vocabulary or have communicated enough to know how to establish that effectively. So listening is going to be super important, and listening with level 3 means you have to stop, you have to pause, and you have to listen to every word that comes out of their mouth, which means that when they start talking, when you're communicating with someone as the listener, don't start thinking about a response. Wait till they're finished talking, and then respond to that point. That allows you to respond with wisdom. It also allows you to grow. I'm going to give you guys a couple of Bible verses that talk about listening. This is Proverbs 12:15. It says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel." Another one is this: "He whose ears listen to life-giving reproof will dwell among the wise." And the last one I'm going to give you is this: "An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar pays attention to a destructive tongue." If you want to look about the word listen, it's probably riddled through Proverbs about 20 times, 25 times, maybe more. And it's always talking about listening intently. It's not talking about a partial listening. It's not talking about listening to respond. It's talking about a listening with the intent of grabbing and processing in a way that is godly. And if you pay attention, Jesus was the master listener. Because in the midst of every situation he was in, He was listening to two things. One, what the person was saying, and two, what the Father was saying. Jesus said, I never say anything except that which the Father bids me to say, which means he's constantly in a state of listening. What does that mean? This morning, I want to encourage you guys to do this. Become professional listeners. Listen at the highest level. Listen without trying to respond. And if you feel yourself dozing off, pinch yourself, do whatever you need to do. But bring yourself back in to honor the person that's speaking to you so you can become a better listener in every situation. Sound good?